video, we're going to talk about the ranges in sword fighting, A, B, C. So what does that mean? The A, B, and C ranges are the way that I think of distances when I'm fighting. I didn't come up with this, I've heard it from other people, it just sticks in my head in this way, and I wanted to share it all with you. Today's video is brought to you by Kobold Press. If you've seen my videos before, you see me talk about how much I like this company. Kobold Press makes TTRPG, tabletop role-playing game books, materials, and products. They are 5e compatible, so if you play Dungeons & Dragons, you can play them with that. If you want a standalone game, these are their own standalone systems as well. They are fantastic. If you've never done any kind of Dungeons & Dragons, TTRPG, role-playing game before, I highly encourage this company. Is a great place to start. Their customer service is amazing. And on top of that, they're just great people. I really like working with them, and I love their products. This is the third of 4 videos where I said after the 4th video, I'll be doing a giveaway. So if you like and comment on this video, you'll be putting in the raffle in the drawing to win a book of your choice. I've got a whole bunch of stuff to give away. You can take this here, this full player's guide. Maybe you want a smaller one. Maybe you want the smaller player guide. Pocket edition, same information, a little easier to carry. We've got different options. We've got books on magic. We've got a whole bunch of different stuff that I will give you the option to pick of what you want. I'll show you the whole spread if you win. So please like, subscribe, and also feel free to share this video with other people who might be interested in night fighting and or role-playing games. I really like Kobold Press. You should too. And if you don't win, just buy their stuff. So A, B, and C refers to how far away you are from your opponent and when you're in range, what kind of range, and where you might be fighting at. So I always think of it this way. A is away, B is between, C is close. So A is away, B is between, C is close. And what I mean by that is it's the distance from which you can be hit or hit your opponent is your A, B, or C range. So A range, if I'm holding this arming sword as an example here and my opponent was here, A range for me would be somewhere out here. I can't make contact, he can't make contact with me if he's swinging. You know, A range could be all the way up to here with this. So you guys got no arms. If you had arms, it might be a little different, right? But I'm not reaching without making a huge step. Now, if I took a step, you know, maybe it is an A range, so and no longer in A range. So the fact that, you know, someone can take a quick movement hit, I'm probably not in A range. A range is way out here. A range is going to be where there's no way. A lunge is not going to strike. There's no way to make contact. So A range is basically safe. Safe for you, safe for your opponent. It's a safe space. So A range is going to be out of range, away. B range is your typical fighting range, contact range, right? So B range is where I'm in here and I am able to hit and be hit back. Now, like I said, B range could be all the way back here because a quick step. Anything that allows quick movement, I consider to be in B range. It's the fighting range. It's the range in which you are trading blows with your opponent and, you know, blocking, hitting, all that stuff. It's when you're within that striking distance. Again, these are general ideas that help you kind of formulate your attack and your strategy. So while I said, like, yes, this could be A range, it's not really, because a quick step and I've made contact, right? Just that. Where, yeah, I'm not. So that's out of range? Not really. That's within range. So A range is way back here with this arming sword. Where even with a lunge, I'm not going to make contact, right? B range, typical fighting range. You're throwing shots, everything's moving in, right? So B range between, C range is close. C range is close fighting. It's dirty boxing. It's grappling range, right? So if we're fighting in here, we're throwing shots and hitting, and then, you know, one of us closes in here, this is going to be C range, right? We're in here now, back, grabs, throws. It changes your weapon usage, how you're going to use things. You know, the advantage of a sword is distance, right? I don't want a sword over a dagger in most fights because I can reach it from out here. But when I'm this close, sometimes the sword gets bound up and now it's problematic. And I have to figure out how to get little weird angles in. So the reason I want to talk about this is when you're fighting, you're going to fight differently depending on the range and your approach. You're also going to fight differently depending on the weapon set. And I think that's really important. One thing I notice pretty often with people who spar with weapons that are different lengths than their steel weapons or foam weapons is they'll mess up their ranges once they get into real steel fighting, right? Or once they get into real sparring. So as an example, we're gonna put the shield down. We don't really need it for this. I have two different weapons here, right? I've got a falchion and I've got an arming sword. And as you can see, they are different lengths. So what is, if we go with this arming sword, what is right here, probably the tip, got a real lunge of my A range. If I switch to the shorter falchion, tip of my B range, my mistake. Right, this right now I'm in B range, I can still hit. It's my middle range, I'm still in contact. If I do B range with this falchion the same way, well now look at that, I'm in A range with this. I can't reach it. Now if I step in a little bit, B range changes with the shorter weapon. Why is this important? One, for your own distance timing. So if I'm here, way out of range with this little shorter falchion, like I can step in, and now I'm suddenly in B, way in here. With the arming sword, like I said, obviously you got different length weapons. You can kind of just see it here and here, like where your contact point's gonna be. So falchion, not hitting, with the arming sword, clearly is. Super important to think about the length of your weapon when you're fighting and how you're using it and why you choose a certain weapon for a duel or a pro fight or whatever it may be, a melee. It's also important to consider what your opponent is fighting with. So all swords are slightly different. There are different length arming swords out there, different length falchions out there, different length long swords out there, great swords, everything. So you've got to really pay attention to the length of your opponent's weapon and what they're fighting against. I have fought a lot of pro fight, night fight matches where I tend to fight with a shorter weapon, a shorter falchion, and so I've got a slightly longer one. I have to take that into consideration when I'm fighting them because my ranges are going to be different than theirs. Why might I want a smaller falchion, short falchion in a pro fight? It's a little bit faster, but also there's a lot more clinching and punching, and I can maneuver this a little bit better than a longer sword, like an arming sword or something like that. So it's about kind of choice and mix and what makes sense. The other thing you have to consider is the build of your opponent. I mean this in length and mobility, flexibility, and speed. So if I'm fighting someone who is very much shorter than me, shorter arms, their ranges might be different than mine. I might have more reach than them, and they might not be able to reach me with the same weapon. Also, if they're highly flexible or highly fast, so if you fight great longsword fighters, they are moving a lot. Their lunges are very, very fast and long, and they've got long reach and great technique. If you're fighting a lumbering oaf like myself, you might have a little more space to be out of range. And you got to think about that when you're fighting and maneuvering. People who've seen me fight have probably noticed that sometimes, after an engagement, when we step out, I tend to drop my weapons and stand around like this a lot. Weapons low, arms low. Do I recommend this? I don't know. It depends on your comfort level with distances and skills and knowing your opponent. But for me, this is a moment to rest my shoulders and kind of relax my arms, my shield and stuff, instead of hold them up here the whole time. I'm only doing this though once I've stepped out. So if I'm, again, just take one weapon here. If I'm fighting, we're throwing our shots, and I step way out of range. I know there's no way anyone's hitting me here. I'll have to kind of drop it and give myself that second to reset. Now, I'm still athletically stanced, I'm still ready to go. My arms can come up quick if they come in. But I do that because it kind of gives me a moment to kind of judge, read the opponent, see the full body, there's nothing blocking, no shield on the way. And I go, okay, time to get back into it. I'll do that occasionally on purpose. Especially if I'm doing a tournament set of fights where I know I'm going to be fighting 3-4 times a night. Any breather you get in there can make a difference for me. So, but again, that's a choice. What I see a lot of new fighters do is they kind of they take a little step out and they put their sword and shield down. They take a breath. Well, if that guy drops his sword right here, one quick step and I'm hitting him. He's still in range. He may not look it, right, if I'm just standing and swinging, but they're in my B range. So you have to make sure if you're going to ever lower your weapon, you're doing it because you're way out, right? There's nothing, I don't care how far I lunge, I'm not hitting that with this shorter sword. So when you're doing your Pel work or your sparring, be thinking about these ranges when you're doing it. Thinking about to yourself, where am I, right? Am I truly out of range? Do I think I am? Right? It's a dynamic movement. There's no A, B, C as far as like being set in place. You're moving all the time, moving in and out of ranges. And am I coming in C? If I'm in close in C range, am I doing it on purpose? Am I getting bound up? Is my opponent pushing on me in ways that I don't like? And am I controlling that distance? So we're talking linearly right now, just back and forth. But of course, a fight is a circle. It's around the whole body. It's circular, it's dynamic. So B range at this distance. If I move over here, it's B range at this distance. It's B range at this distance. But that person's be circling and moving. So it's kind of like a flow of a fight. When you kind of start thinking in those terms, it makes it easier for me to understand where I'm at, where my distances are, and judge my opponent. Last thing I want to talk about is sparring weapons. So for me, it's important that my sparring weapons are as similar as I can get them within reason. We're just using what's available to us to my real steel weapons. So I just gave you an example of the falchion I like to fight with and the arming sword. Well, this is my falchion foam weapon, and this is my arming sword. You can see there's a different length. This is still a little short, but it's closer to my arming sword length, right? It's actually, the blades are not that far, but the handles are different too, so I can get a little more handle reach. So I full fight this one at the bottom to get more reach. It's closer to my arming sword instead of up higher. So down here, it's about an arming sword length for me. With the falchion, I'll choke up to my falchion length. And I do that on purpose. So I spar a lot with a shorter sword than my opponent. Why? Because that's closer to the steel weapon I'm going to be using and what I like. So I'm giving up something, give a little bit of range to mimic what I'm going to be using in steel. And in steel, I like the shorter weapon. I like the maneuverability of it. I tend to fight in close, so C range is something I'm comfortable in. I want smaller, quicker weapons in that space that doesn't get bound up as much. But that's a choice I'm making. So I actually have different foam weapons to match the differences in what I'm actually training. If I trained all the time, let's say with this, and then I went down to a shorter falchion, a shorter weapon, I'm suddenly going to be thinking I'm in range and throwing shots, and they aren't going to be hitting. So I think that's really important in your sparring and your training, whether you're doing Pel work, whether you're doing sparring with people, is to use weapons that are as close to the same distances, lengths as you can get reasonably with your real weapons. It's going to help you become a better fighter. And again, I think there's nothing more important than actual sparring to understand distances, range, and movement. And that, I think that you're going to be doing more of that in foam than steel, just because of the amount of time it takes to armor up and get all it on and everything else. You still need your steel fighting. It's important, but I probably do 2/3 to 3/4 more foam fighting than I do steel fighting for practice. So A, B, and C, those are your ranges. Understand the differences and why you're in a certain one at different spaces, and also what the rule set is, right? So if I'm going to be in C range more in a pro fight where I can punch versus an arming sword duel where I may not be able to, depending on the league, yeah. And I'm going to stay in B range a lot more where it's just weapon striking, where I might be in C, I might be close in that closing range if I can throw punches and I can do grapples. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on the format. I hope that's helpful for you. Take it home, try it yourself, work on your Pel, and when you're in movement, be thinking to yourself, am I out of range? And test it, right? So test it all the time. Like I said before, if you have that sword and you go, no, I'm in C range, no one can hit me. Well, take a quick lunge step forward and see, oh yeah, I would get smacked right now. So I gotta be more on guard. My C range is actually out here. It's a little farther away than I think. If I think, well, this is my B range, is this really B range? Or is this like one step to a punch and a blow to be kind of in C range? So you wanna think about that as you're doing dynamic movement and training and understand your positioning, because between that and the video I shared about fighting offline, it kind of gives you the whole angle dynamics of movement. You have your A, B, and C for distance, and you have your offline fighting for angles. If you combine those two things together, what you're going to become is a much better fighter who understands where they are in space more than your opponent. And for me, that's a lot of fighting. A lot of fighting is footwork and knowing where you are in space compared to your opponent. If you're better at that mentally, you're often a better fighter, even if you're a little bit slower, even if your technique's a little more sloppy, because you understand the distances and the movements that need to be made to make those strikes and take the win. I'm the Woodchuck Knight. like, follow, subscribe, all that wonderful stuff. And I hope to see you in another video.